lymphatic system and immunity review. Please make sure you memorize these definitions. What immunity is. Immunity is the ability to resist and defense against infectious organisms and other damaging substances. So please make sure you memorize this definition, okay? Immune response, make sure you memorize that. Remember, a pathogen, I'm going to focus on viruses and bacteria. Don't worry about fungi, don't worry about parasites. You'll do that in micro. But the big thing I want you to remember is that a pathogen is a microscopic organism that can cause disease. And the two types I want you to remember are viruses and bacteria. The lymphatic system is also known as the lymphoid system. Okay, that should be pretty easy to remember. Does it protect against other organisms? Yes. Does it protect against environmental pathogens, like organisms, like bacteria and viruses? Yes, those are the bacteria and viruses. Does it prevent against toxins? Yes. Does it prevent against some of our cells, our own cells that are abnormal? Yes. Does it prevent or protect against allergens, such as peanut allergens or pollen or dog hair, cat hair, things like that? Yes. Now, the major cell of the lymphatic system are lymphocytes, okay? And remember we talked about it earlier, B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, NK cells, okay? So I did that on a previous video, so I'm not really going to get too much in depth with that. Remember, immunity is the ability to resist infection and disease. That's a key definition, okay? Immunity is the ability to resist infection and disease. What is lymphatic fluid? Lymph fluid is similar to plasma, but without plasma proteins. Remember, it contains the waste, okay? Whether that's old bacteria, whatever it is, it's just waste. What are the name of the vessels that carry lymph? Lymphatic vessels. Again, this should be pretty easy to remember. I don't expect much of that to be a problem, okay? Lymphocytes, it says, are produced in red bone marrow. Which is the only blood cell, or which is the only lymphocyte that does not finish its maturation in the red bone marrow is the thymus, okay? Lymphocytes are not activated in red bone marrow. They're activated elsewhere. So that's the key. They are activated elsewhere in the body. That's the key thing to remember. So where are lymphocytes activated? Elsewhere in the body. Okay, could they be activated in lymph nodes? Yes. Can they be activated in tonsils? Yes. Okay. Lymph, make sure you remember this definition. Lymph is interstitial fluid that has entered a lymphatic vessel. So what is lymph? It's interstitial fluid that has entered a lymphatic vessel. So remember, if this is a blood vessel, and here's a lymph vessel, because remember, a lymph vessel has this closed end. We call it a blind pocket. Okay? Blind pocket. Interstitial fluid is out here. So any of the interstitial fluid that goes in there is called lymph. So what do we call the interstitial fluid that goes in a lymphatic vessel? Lymph. Pretty easy. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Does lymphatic fluid get returned to circulation? Yes. Does it go back into arteries or veins? Veins. What does lymphatic fluid go back into? Veins. What does lymphatic fluid go back into? Veins. Does it go directly into it, or does it have to go through lymph nodes? It has to go through lymph nodes. So lymphatic fluid goes into what? Lymph nodes. And then the lymph nodes clean up the lymph fluid, and it goes into what? Veins. Okay? Do lymph nodes have a lot of lymphocytes inside of them? Yes. What do lymph nodes have inside of them? Lymphocytes. What do lymph nodes have inside of them? Lymphocytes. What is the fluid inside of a lymphatic vessel? Lymph. Does it contain waste products? Yes. What structure, what circular structure that contains a large number of lymphocytes cleans up the lymphatic fluid? Lymph node. Okay? Lymphatic fluid eventually ends up in where? Arteries, veins, or capillaries? Veins. Where does lymphatic fluid eventually end up in? Veins. So does lymphatic fluid return to circulation? And the answer is what? Yes. Lymphatic vessels, are they a circulatory system or a closed system? Closed. The reason we call it closed is because there is an end to it. Okay, there is an end to it. If you look on the right, these are blood vessels. There's no beginning and there's no end. It just keeps going around your body. Whereas a lymph vessel, there's an end. So the blood vessels, arteries, veins, capillaries, they're an open system, okay, because they just keep circulating the blood around. Whereas lymphatic vessels are what? Closed. Are lymphatic vessels closed? Yes. Are lymphatic vessels closed? Yes. What are lymphatic vessels? Closed. We have different types of lymphocytes. What are they? T cells, B cells, and NK cells. We did this already, so I don't expect this to be too much of a problem. NK cells, what do they stand for? Natural killer cells. What do NK cells stand for? Natural killer cells. What do NK cells stand for? Natural killer cells. What's the type of cell that is responsible for killing viral infected cells and cancer cells? NK cells. What type of cell, what type of lymphocyte is responsible for killing viral infected cells and cancer cells? NK cells. Do they kill our own viral infected cells? Yes. Do they kill our own cancer cells? Yes. B cells. Is that humoral immunity or is that cell mediated? Humoral. So B cells, humoral or cell mediated? Humoral. So B cells, humoral or cell mediated? Humoral. T cells, okay? Are they cell mediated or humoral? Cell mediated. Good. B cells, are they also known as B lymphocytes? Yes. B cells are also known as what? B lymphocytes. What are B cells also known as? B lymphocytes. What are B cells also known as? B lymphocytes. Do B cells become plasma cells or plasma cells? Plasma cells. What do B cells become? Plasma cells. What do B cells become? Plasma cells. And plasma cells secrete what? Antibodies. What do plasma cells secrete? Antibodies. Okay, let's reverse this. Antibodies are produced by what cell? Plasma cells. And plasma cells are derived from what type of cell? B cell. So plasma cells come from where? B cells. Where are they derived from? B cells. Plasma cells produce what? Antibodies. Does Ig mean antibody? Yes. Does it mean actually immunoglobulin? Yes. Now, cell mediated is what? T cells or B cells? T cells. We have 4 different types of T cells. We have cytotoxic T cell, which we write like this. We have T helper cells, which is written like this. We have T, that should be an H. T regulatory cells, which is TR. And then we have TM, which is T memory cells. Okay? Do T memory cells help us fight an infection quicker the second time around? Yes. Do T memory cells have anything to do with the first time you come down with an infection? No. Not the first, but every other response after the first is where T memory helps. Okay? Because if it's the first time you've seen it, you have no memory of it. Okay? It's your first time learning it. Now, what is the name of the cell that stops the cytotoxic T cells once and tells the cytotoxic T cells and T helper cells to stop? Regulatory T cells. So what stops lymphocytes once the infection has been cleared? Regulatory T cells. So what cells stop helper T cells and cytotoxic T cells once the disease has been cleared? Regulatory T cells. Okay. Which cell has the ability, which T cell has the ability to fight an infection directly? Cytotoxic T cells. Which one has the ability to fight an infection directly? Cytotoxic T cells. Which is more abundant? T cells, B cells, or NK cells? T cells. Which is most abundant? T. So which is at the top? T. Which is at the top? T. Which is at the top? T. Which one's the most abundant? T, B, or NK? T. Which is most abundant? T, B, or NK? T. Which one secretes? Do plasma cells secrete antibodies? Yes. Are antibodies secreted by B cells? No. Are they secreted by plasma cells? Yes. Do B cells become plasma cells? Yes. Do plasma cells secrete antibodies? Yes. Okay. Lymphoid nodules. Okay. Lymphoid nodules are found in lymphoid organs. Where are lymphoid nodules found? Lymphoid organs. Are they microscopic or microscopic? Microscopic. Yes, guys, I'm doing that. I did repeat that. I didn't say macroscopic. I'm doing it just to help you out. Okay? Is a lymph node considered a lymphoid organ? Yes. Is the spleen? Yes. Are the tonsils? Yes. Is malt? Yes. Now, malt is found in these 3. Please make sure you remember that. Okay? Oop, I don't want to put TQ. I'd rather just put as, make sure you remember that. Okay. So, malt. Remember mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue? Do all of these have lymphoid nodules? And the answer is yes. So do lymph nodes and spleen have lymphoid nodules? Yes. Do tonsils and mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue have nodules? Yes. Okay. Does that mean they contain a large number of lymphocytes? Yes. So do all of these contain a large number of lymphocytes? Yes. Putting high. That's an up arrow for high. Do lymphoid nodules have a large number of lymphocytes? Yes. Do your tonsils have a large number of lymphocytes? Yes. Because do they have lymphoid nodules? Yes. Okay, what's the function of the lymph node? It removes 99% of foreign antigens. What is the function of a lymph node? To remove 99% of foreign antigens. Do lymph nodes recycle lymph fluid? Yes. Once it cleans the lymph fluid, where does the lymph fluid go back into? Arteries, veins, capillaries, or other lymphatic vessels? Veins. Where does the lymph fluid go back into? Veins. Okay. The thymus produces a hormone called what? Thymosin. What does the thymus produce? What hormone? Thymosin. What hormone does thymus produce? Thymosin. And what does thymosin do? Ensures the maturing of T cells. What does it cause? The maturing of T cells. What does it cause? Maturing of T cells. What is the function of the spleen? Removal of abnormal blood cells, storage of iron, okay, and fight infections. That's really what this last one is. It really means it just fights infections. Well, why does it fight infections? Fights infections. IFXNS stands for infections, guys. I know I did it on another video, but I just figured I'd say it again. Okay. Fights infections. So, does the spleen have a lot of lymphocytes inside of it? Yes. Does it have lymphoid nodules inside of it? Yes. Okay. So, how many types of immunity are there? Well, there's two. I'm not going to ask you that question. I'm not going to ask you how many types there are. What I want you to remember is that innate is nonspecific and adaptive is specific. Is innate specific or nonspecific? Nonspecific. Is innate what you're born with? Yes. Is innate what you're born with? Yes. Okay. Is innate what you're born with? Yes. Is it specific or nonspecific for an organism? Nonspecific. So does innate care whether it's a bacteria, virus, or allergen? No, it doesn't care. Is the skin, the answer is yes. Is the skin part of innate? Yes. And that's always the one I think of, as I just think my skin doesn't care whether it's bacteria, dog hair, cat hair, whatever. It protects against all those different types. Adaptive is specific. That's if it comes inside of my body, okay? That's why it says after exposure to environmental hazards, okay? And is adaptive specific? Yeah, it's specific against a particular pathogen. Once it's inside my body, adaptive takes over, and it's like, okay, let's just try to kill this. Now, we've already done this, B cells, T cells, and K cells. I'm not going to talk about that again. Besides one.